Hi, can everybody hear me? I want to talk about a couple things today. 3, actually. Summer camp, the internet, and making tough choices. Over the summer, I spend every waking hour watching over 25 spectacular 15-year-olds. Whether that's hearing about their latest crush or staying up late at night talking about God, being a camp counselor has taught me some really important things. One of my campers, his name is Jonah, he's actually right next to me up there, is brilliant. Might be the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life. He understands the nuance of complex concepts better than I ever could, and every time I talk to him, I learn something new. Jonah also has a twin brother, whose name is Micah, who's impeccably well-dressed, a social butterfly, and attracts friends and attention wherever he goes. Growing up in parallel to that has been really difficult for Jonah. So, a couple months back, we were at a camp reunion, and Jonah wasn't acting like himself. He was frustrated and aggressive, and I was upset that he wasn't feeling comfortable. So I pulled him aside, and we got to chatting. And after a couple minutes, he turns to me and says, "Oz, does happiness exist? I've been wondering for some time now, and I'm having a hard time thinking that it's not just some illusion we make up to feel better about the brokenness of the world around us." And it took me a minute to respond because I felt so ashamed and embarrassed, not because I hadn't done anything to make his life better, but because I wasn't sure that I disagreed with him. So I took a moment, thought to myself, when I was his age, what would I have said? What would I have done? When I was 15, I got the chance to meet a different boy. His name was Elijah, and he was 6 years old. At the age of 6, he was diagnosed with PDD-NOS, which is a condition on the autism spectrum that affected his interpersonal communication and social skills. Every Sunday, we'd meet up for 2 hours at a local synagogue to play basketball, do some arts and crafts, maybe even get to talking about Thomas the Tank Engine or how annoying his little brother is. After a while, either because he became more confident or comfortable around me, or because the situation escalated, he started telling me about his family, how his parents would sometimes get into violent arguments, or that his father would beat him. And hearing that, I felt terrified and sad because I knew I had 2 choices, one of which was to say something, knowing that he'd be pulled out of the program and might have more pain caused to him, or I would live with the guilt of having said nothing. So when his mom came to pick him up that day, I told her what he'd said, and after that, I never saw Elijah ever again. And I felt so guilty because I knew that what I'd done put him further in harm's way. I knew I'd done the right thing, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel glamorous. I felt still unsettled. Just to change gears for the time being, today, technology has transformed the way we do good in some pretty spectacular ways. We've seen nations toppled by Twitter, beautiful moments of solidarity on Facebook, and one video drawing the world's attention to a terrible war crime in Africa, controversy or not. Inspired by these moments, my roommate and I, his name is Ben Aronson, and I think he's in the audience somewhere, decided we would switch things up with our fraternity's philanthropy called Derby Days. We reached out to our networks and the internet and the people that we were connected to and asked them to believe in the power of one another. We worked day in and day out for our goal of raising $50,000 for cancer research, with sleepless nights telling ourselves that on the other end we'd feel gratified, like we made a difference and changed something in the world, that there would be this innate feeling of accomplishment. We started a hashtag, built a social media presence that engaged 30,000 people, planned events that had real meaning and substance to them. We filmed videos of sorority women sharing the stories of how cancer had affected their lives some of which had never shared those stories with their friends before in ways that were so powerful and meaningful that they brought people to tears. And after a few weeks, we'd broken a GW record and raised over $80,000 for cancer research. The next morning, I woke up expecting to feel accomplished, and instead, I felt empty and sad. I was in a dark place. Instead of seeing the things that were right in front of my eyes, this beautiful, fantastic thing that we just put together, I could only hear people complain that their sorority didn't win or that their apparel order didn't go through. The age that we live in has put us all in a dark place somewhere or another with this expectation that the world is going to be glamorous, and we sometimes fall short of that. I was in that dark place after Derby Days when I was at the camp reunion with Jonah talking about whether or not happiness exists. And I could only answer with something I'd realized in that moment. I turned to him and I said, dude, we create happiness for ourselves in our lives. Sure, it's invented. Yeah, sure, it's different for everyone. Yeah, sure, sometimes people pretend to be happier than they actually are. And that's okay, because it's on us to decide who we're going to be and what makes us happy. The internet has made doing good feel a lot easier and more glamorous and more gratifying than it actually is. I've spent the last 5 years of my life feeling guilty that I sent a 6-year-old into harm's way trying to do the right thing. And at one point I kind of realized there's nothing else I could have done. And that's kind of how life is sometimes. One of my favorite quotes goes something like this. Each of us must hold a note in both our pockets. One that says, "For my sake were the heavens and the earth created," and the other which says, "I am but dust and ashes." It's our duty to spend our lives endeavoring every day to make the world a better place, to struggle endlessly in this quest to fix this ever-broken wonder of a universe. It's not just about what we do and how we feel. Those moments in which we're there for each other in even the smallest ways, you and I both know have the greatest impact. It's not just about feeling good about what we're doing, it's about realizing that the picture is bigger than us. Do people whine less because we raised 80 grand for cancer research? No, because gratification comes from in here, not from anybody else. Doing good is harder than the YouTube videos make it seem because it's not about you. Selflessness is hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it's challenging. Everybody doing a little thing is not enough to see big change. 1 million tweets won't feed the hungry or cure the sick. A YouTube video alone won't put a kid from an underserved community through college. But you know what? I bet your hard work might. Jonah and Elijah taught me that happiness is not always what we think that it is. That doing the right thing doesn't always merit you a parade. That true happiness comes from selflessness and vulnerability, not chasing something shiny to fulfill you. We do good because it's the right thing to do. We're selfless because it's the right thing to do, not because we need a reminder of our virtue, because chances are that if you do good, you are good, and that's good enough. I dare you to be brave. The stumbling blocks on our paths to changing the world exist only in our minds. We might not feed the world overnight, but that doesn't excuse us from trying, because we need big dreamers and even bigger doers if we're going to make this world whole again. And I dare you to think that that could be you. Thank you.